This presentation covers Chapter 21, which covers environmental laws in business. The first section has to do with government regulations. They're done at the federal, state, and local level. Within these regulations, there is air pollution regulations, water pollution regulations, toxic chemicals regulations, and hazardous waste disposal. Starting with federal, there is the Environmental Protection Agency, which is a government agency that is responsible for covering all environmental instances. The second one is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, also known as NOAA. They'll be covered a little more later. At the state and local level, there's local and state laws, and they're typically more strict than the federal laws, and these go on by state basis and a situation by situation basis. What is pollution? We have a quick video.
Oh, I'm not well. Since evening, I'm coughing a lot. I can't even breathe.
Yeah, even your eyes are red.
Yes, I can't even see.
Oh, I know why it is happening. See outside.
Oh, there's a lot of noise and smoke.
Yes, you're coughing because of the smoke. Even your eyes have become red because of this. You know, it is called pollution.
Pollution? What is that?
Oh, when we make nature dirty, it is called pollution.
When we make nature dirty, it is called pollution.
Let me show you how it happens. From the factories where things are made, a lot of smoke comes out, which is making the nature dirty.
Air pollution.
Let us see some more pollution. See, when we travel in cars, buses, trucks, again, a lot of smoke comes out. Let me show you something more. See, people are cutting trees here.
You know, trees breathe in dirty air and give out good air.
Hey, you're a smart boy.
This dirty air is called carbon dioxide and good air is called oxygen. So when trees are cut and when jungles become smaller, there is nobody to clean the dirty air. Trees breathe in carbon dioxide and give oxygen. See, dirty water from the houses and factories is coming in the river.
Yes, this may kill the fishes in the river, and we would also not get clean water to drink.
What a pollution!
Jimmy, even you are spreading pollution.
No, I'm not.
See, people throw these wrappers and plastic. These plastic never gets mixed in soil, so the soil becomes dirty.
Land pollution! It looks so dirty here, and it is smelling a lot. Can we go back, please?
Oftentimes it is as simple as that. That video was put together by the Environmental Protection Agency for the explanation of what pollution is for children. Many of us forget at times how simple it is to stop pollution, and therefore sometimes it's as simple as having a video for children. Air pollution first started to be taken care of with the Clean Air Act of 1970, which was passed by Congress. It covered both mobile and stationary sources, and as this points out, it has to do with automobiles, which come with now emission guidelines that are now becoming more strict with President Obama in 2014. Planes and trains are also another common example. And stationary sources have to do with industrial plants and electrical plants, typically, also known as power plants, and these have to do with typically coal plants and sometimes nuclear power plants. Water pollution was taken care of with the Clean Water Act of 1970, passed by Congress, and the first step of that is make water safe for swimming. The second one is to protect fish and wildlife, and the third is to eliminate the discharge of pollutants into the water. These can all be found in the book. Secondly, there's a difference between direct contamination and indirect contamination with water pollution. A direct contamination will be the companies dumping directly into the water source. Indirect contaminations means that they're first either polluting the air, which is then polluting the water source, or they are polluting another object that is leading into a water source. Toxic chemicals have to do with herbicides and pesticides, typically having to do with the agricultural industry. These are covered by the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, also known as FERFA, and that regulates the sale and distribution of such materials. This was actually passed commonly and more up to date because these chemicals are used in the creation of dirty bombs and other terroristic threats. So it's gained a lot of popularity in the last couple of years. And the Toxic Substances Control Act of 1976 has to do with asbestos and other hazardous building materials and how you dispose of those. Hazardous waste, you can read the Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation, and Liability Act of 1980. It established an information gathering and analysis system that enables the government to identify chemical sites and determine the appropriate action. You can read the other 2 and 3, but on 4, it allowed the government to cover the cost of cleanup from the persons who were even remotely responsible for hazardous substances released into the environment. Environmental law is broken up into 3 categories. It has to do with common law first and foremost, and it has to do with nuisance, negligence, and strict liability. On common law, involved parties can take action against a business for the negligence, nuisance, and strict liability, and it's the ability to take action against a business or corporation. With nuisance, persons may be held liable if they use their property in a manner that is unreasonably interferes with others' rights to use or enjoy their own property, and that can be found in the book. Negligence, as found in the book, is the business's alleged failure to use reasonable care toward the party whose injury was foreseeable and was caused by the lack of reasonable care. Strict liability is handled by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, also known as OSHA. Many of you are probably familiar with this. And negligence rules are in constant effect with companies that are deemed ultra-hazardous. These companies typically have the signs on the side of tractor trailers and the transportation vehicles that they use. The EPA, also known as the Environmental Protection Agency, is environmental laws and regulations are regulated at all levels of the government and are more strictly regulated at state and local levels. Laws are written by Congress, but the Environmental Protection Agency at a federal level interprets these laws that are written by Congress and then applies them to each case. The best example for this is with Alaska and the crude oil situation. Typically there's a lot of crude oil up in Alaska right now. Since 1980 they're mining that. The Environmental Protection Agency has been involved almost exclusively with the regulation of these companies. Something Alaska's doing that's not common is they are now taxing these companies so much that the companies are still making money. However, there's now a federal fund for the environment and the reclamation of that environment that is being destroyed, as well as each Alaskan citizen and resident of the state gains money each month, and it's actually paid in a yearly check on the money that the state is collecting off the taxes from the crude oil. The rules and regulations that are highlighted in the book can be found on page 611, and these will highlight better what exactly our Environmental Protection Agency does. On a local level, Exide Technologies was a major violator of environmental laws. Starting back in the early 2000s is when they were caught. It's been going on since 1970. Focus here will be on the Laureldale facility and the lead pollution that was involved. They polluted both air, water, ground, and community parks. I don't know if anybody is familiar with Bernhardt's Dam, which was closed because of the incident. The initial response to the situation had to do with 19 properties. 2 feet of topsoil had to be removed to remove all the lead from the properties, and then new topsoil had to be brought in that was cleaned. There were several civil suits that came against the company, and Bernhardt Park was closed. It was typically an area for fishing, water sports, a picnic facility, and they had a lot of wildlife. There is now longer no recreational use, and the state no longer stocks the lake with fish and game. Continued problems have been going on for the last 20 or so years. Additional properties have involved, which have also brought additional civil suits. And there was a civil administrative order that was filed from the EPA, and it brought criminal action and civil action against Exide Technologies. The whole case, and Exide Technologies Incorporated has 80 locations worldwide. They have several partners and several sub-companies that they also use that are also falling under the Exide Technology umbrella. And they've had problems with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the Environmental Protection Agency. Chapter 11 bankruptcy was filed by the company in 2002, with a proof of claim from the federal government being filed in 2003. All this means is Exide has largely gone out of business at this point because they've had so many problems with environmental laws. They're still not recovered. And the proof of claim that was filed has to do with allowing for the continued cleanup of both parks and future lawsuits that may come from individuals that still have time to file with any other incidences. It's the end of this presentation. Does anybody have any questions?